All right, so um, the Galilean moons, what are they? Well, they're the four really big moons that surround Jupiter. Why are they called the Galilean moons? Well, and this is, by the way, this is about what they'd look like if you had a really good telescope. Um, and you could, you usually can't see all four, but if you had a really good telescope, um, then you could see something like this. Now, Galileo had a telescope. His telescope was not nearly as good as what you could find today. It was probably more like a sort of a cheap pair of binoculars. Is about as good as his telescope was. Um, but anyway, so what did he do? Well, he looked through his telescope. He saw all kinds of really amazing things. But one of the things that he saw was what he called stars going. That seemed to be going around Jupiter. And that was a really big deal because at that point, everybody thought that everything went around the Earth. And one of the arguments, was, well, if we know the moon goes around the Earth, if how could the Earth go around the sun and sort of pull the moon along with it? It just didn't seem right. Um, but when Galileo proved that there were moons going around Jupiter, wow, well, that was a really big deal. I mean, for one, it proved that not everything goes around the Earth. Um, anyhow, so moving on. These are all the moons in the solar, or the biggest moons in the solar system, and four of the six biggest are the Galilean moons around Jupiter. So Ganymede's the biggest, Callisto is at number 3, Io is number 4, and then number 6 is Europa. This is Titan, which is the biggest moon around Saturn, and this is our moon, respectable number 5. Okay, so a bunch of pictures of the Galilean moons kind of together. It's not a real picture. I think they have a picture like this in your textbook. It just shows them for comparison. There's another picture taken by some kind of spacecraft. I'm not sure if it's Voyager, maybe. There they are, side by side. And this goes from closest to Jupiter to farthest away from Jupiter. So Io's the closest, then Europa, Ganymede, Callisto. Here they are again, arranged differently. Okay, and then I have our moon for comparison. So it's right kind of in the ballpark of Io and Europa. Ganymede and Callisto, a bit bigger. And then there's the Earth. Sometimes when we talk about how big Ganymede is, people say, well, is it bigger than the Earth? No, it's not. It's big, though. All right, so here's a cool thing. Io is the closest moon to Jupiter. And so the closer something is to a body, the faster it orbits. So Io's going to go the fastest. But what's interesting is that it goes around 2 times for every 1 time that Europa goes around. So if you watch it when they're at the top now, right, there's 1 for Europa and 2. And then for Ganymede, Europa goes around 4 times for each 1 time. So now they're at the top, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're both at the top again. So anyways, it kind of has to be that way, almost, because if it weren't in that kind of a pattern, then you could have these gravitational perturbations that could toss one moon or the other out of the whole Jupiter system, and it might go wandering along the solar system where it could wreak all kinds of havoc. All right, so just a few small things about Io. Not to say a ton, because I don't want this video to go on forever. But here's a picture of Io with Jupiter in the background. There's another one. Very cool picture. I think this is by the spacecraft Juno, which is out there right now. This is the same picture, just turned sideways. This is a picture of Io in real color. It's really strange. I mean, it's a bizarre looking moon, isn't it? Oh crap! hope I don't run out of battery. Anyways, so what's behind this? Sometimes it's called the pizza moon. Doesn't look quite like a pizza, but you can see it's kind of have pizza-y colors, sort of. And it's the only moon that looks anything like this. No other moon has this kind of weird, sort of yellow-orange, bizarre appearance. And by the way, since I'm only doing this for a fairly short video, if you want to know more, just search NASA and then Io, or NASA and then whatever you're interested in the solar system. And they have tons of great, very cool information, all kinds of graphics and stuff. NASA really does a great job on that stuff. So these are probably the 4 coolest moons in the solar system. Io, Enceladus, Titan, and Europa. We're going to focus on Io. So the big thing here is volcanoes. More than 400 active volcanoes on, body that's about the size of our moon. There's only 2 objects in the solar system that are known to be volcanic. It's the Earth and Io. And Io is much more active than the Earth is, actually. Now, Venus might also have active volcanoes, but we're not really sure yet. Here's a close-up. You can see it's got really very smooth surface, which is unusual. If you look at any moon in the solar system, usually it's jagged, it's covered in craters and stuff, and this is smooth. That's because it's new. Anytime you see something smooth, a smooth surface that doesn't have craters on it, that means it's new. And it's basically from these volcanoes. Io is sort of turning itself inside out all the time, so it's creating new surface. Here's kind of a close-up, more recent close-up. You can see it's kind of a heat map showing where there's volcanic activity going on there. And this shows what might be kind of some tectonic movement. So sort of the surface of Io moving in the same way that Earth sort of does, only probably faster. Because these look like they fit together, right? So maybe at one time they were together and they kind of moved the same way that plates do on Earth. Not really sure, though. All right, that's it. There's a lot more that could be said about that, but trying to keep these videos